Yeah, they don't teach you crap about money in school. First of all, credit, like credit scores, what are they? How do they work? How do you manage it? How do you improve it? Budgeting for like actual retirement. They never taught about how you should value the skills that you're learning and how education and skills acquisition directly correlates to earning potential. They never really like framed learning as having a financial component. They never talked about borrowing money other than maybe generally saying you shouldn't do it, but most wealthy people do a lot with debt. And there's very good ways to use debt. And they never talked about leverage. They never really talked about how you can take $1 and use it times the value of other people's money to maybe turn it into $10 of buying power so that you can get appreciation on more than the amount of money you put in. At least in the schooling I went to, never heard a peep about any of it. And I can say the same for my kids. There's one secret I could share that the wealthiest people in the world do. It's something called infinite banking. Basically what you do is there's certain types of life insurance policies where you put your money in every month and it stores up value. But in this case, these policies are structured so that as the money accumulates, you can actually borrow it to buy stuff that you need. And what's so cool about it is when you pull the money out, you're not pulling it out from the actual cash, you're pulling it out from the death benefit of the policy. You borrow the money out, you're paying yourself back at 6%, just like you would a bank. But meanwhile, that same amount of money is still sitting in the policy, earning you like, let's say a 5% dividend, whether you're using it or not. So you can literally use your money to buy other stuff, but still earn interest on your money. First of all, college. People aren't gonna like this one. For anyone that isn't crystal clear on why they need college, they already know what they're majoring in and they know it's something that they actually have to have a college degree to do, like nursing or law. Secondly would be buying a new car and or any car that's expensive unless you just have enough money that it makes zero impact on your quality of life. Third thing, anybody buying a house that they're not gonna live in for at least 10 years, total waste of money. All your payment in the first 10 years of a 30-year, or even the vast majority of it on a 15-year goes mostly to interest. You don't really build any equity for all the money that you spend. You should just be focused on living as cheap as possible, not so worried about owning the place that you live. Never work a 9-to-5 job unless there's some reason to do it other than just the money that you're getting in exchange for your time. If you have to work a 9-to-5 job, find one where there are skills that you can learn that are relevant to what you want to do in your life, or just get into a business that'll hire you for a 9-to-5 job and get obsessed with learning how business works and trying to get closer and closer to where the revenue is generated in the business. Because the closer you get to the revenue center of the business, the more valuable the skills that you're learning get, so that eventually you can quit. You don't need the 9-to-5 job. So 50-30-20 is like one of the most popular financial management approaches for the average person in this world. And it basically says you should take 50% of the money you make and use it to buy things that you need, which means on the flip side, you need to engineer your life so that you only need so much that it doesn't cost greater than 50% of what you make. And then you have 30% that you budget for things that you want or are nice to have. And then you have 20% that you put aside for saving and investing. And honestly, I don't love it, but it's probably a decent starting framework for the average person at the average income. If you want to get rich, stop buying shit that goes down in value. Buy assets, buy things that generate cash flow. Who are the 3 richest people in the world? Elon Musk sells cars, Jeff Bezos sells everything that people buy on Amazon, and Bernard Arnault, who owns Louis Vuitton, Hennessy, and a bunch of luxury brands. They're the richest guys in the world because of what most people do with their money, which is buy stuff that goes down in value. Start buying assets that produce cash flow if you want to get rich. Unless you have enough money that you're not worried about money, don't buy new stuff. And even if you do have enough money that you're not worried about money, don't buy new stuff unless there's a really good reason to. I'll give you a perfect example. My car. I drive a Porsche Panamera Turbo S, brand new. It's $210,000. I was able to find one that was 2 years old and had 11,000 miles on it for 140 grand. So for $70,000 off, literally paying a third less than new, it has 11,000 miles. New car decreases in value basically 25% when you drive it off the lot. That's money gone. I could turn around and sell my car right now for as much or probably even a little bit more than I paid for it. Good luck doing that with a new car. Why would I borrow money? I borrow money because I'm smart and I'd rather make money on other people's money than only be able to make money on my own money. So imagine I have $1 million and I want to go buy assets that cost $1 million and pay me 10% return per year. So I could either take $1 million and go buy $1 million asset and make 10% a year, which is 100 grand a year, or I could take that $1 million and I could divide it into 5 equal chunks of $200,000 and use each of those to put 20% down on $1 million assets, borrowing the rest. Yeah, I'm going to have to pay maybe a few percentage points on the 800,000 that I borrow per asset. So let's say at 4%, I'm paying 32 grand a year in interest. but I'm making $100,000 per year now on 5 different assets instead of just one. So in the first scenario, I took my $1 million, I didn't borrow any money, but I was only able to make 100 grand per year. In the second scenario, I borrowed $4 million of the $5 million, and I'm now making $340,000 a year compared to 100 in the first example. So by borrowing money, I was able to more than triple the amount of income that I was able to produce. Saving, save your money. You want to save something? Save yourself from the delusion that you're going to save your way to wealth. You need to make more money. If you're not worth at least $100 an hour, the odds of you saving your way to any sort of meaningful quality outcome of life at some point in the future are like infinitesimal. If you understand what's happening with the way the government's printing money, if you understand what's happening with inflation, they'll tell you inflation is 3%. If you actually look at the real numbers based on a consistent basket of goods of what people actually spend their money on, like milk and eggs and sausage, the money's losing value like 6 to 8% a year. You don't even have a prayer if you're not making $100 an hour for 2,000 hours a year in this world. So don't worry about saving your way to wealth. Worry about having more valuable skills and making more money. I don't think anybody should get into real estate that doesn't have at least 100 grand to work with, and 100 grand they don't need anytime soon. If you have 100 grand, you can put $30,000 to $50,000 down on 2 to 3 houses. That's 20% down on 2 or 3 $150,000 to $250,000 houses. That means you can go into healthy real estate markets, middle class or lower middle class neighborhoods that are going to have stable rents, good value, good local economies and job markets. Like, you got to have some wherewithal to get into real estate. And I know this from experience. I tried getting into it in my early 20s when credit was pretty easy to come by, but I didn't have any cash. One burst water heater, and all of a sudden you need $1,500 cash to repair a water heater. And unless you do, you can't get a renter, and it's going to sit vacant, and it's going to eat you alive in taxes, and you're just stuck because you're cash poor. This whole idea of like bootstrapping your way to wealth in real estate, I think, is bad business. Do something else to make your first 100 grand, then start buying properties. First of all, stop destroying your credit score. Anybody that stopped to watch a video on how to improve their credit score, there's a decent chance that you're proactively messing up your credit score. Don't buy stuff you can't afford. Pay off your cards every month. Live within your means. That's the easy one, right? Okay, you want a little more sophisticated answer? Call every one of your creditors and ask them for a balance increase. Try to get them to raise your balances as big as you can, and then don't use it. Just continue to pay it off every month so you increase the ratio of credit to debt that you use every month. That'll make a nice natural boost. And then the third thing is called the authorized signer method. Find somebody else you know that has good credit, that has a good credit card, and get them to add you to their credit card. You know, keep them safe. Don't even get a physical credit card. Don't even have a card issued to you, or if they issue you a card, let them hang on to it. So you don't actually have access to the credit. You don't have a card you can use, but you can actually get credit for their good credit if you get added as an authorized signer. Depending on how much cash flow I have coming in, one would be rental properties. The reason you do a 401k is because you get to defer taxes, and a lot of times you get maybe employee matching or whatever, but you have no control. That's the problem. They limit what you can invest in, more or less, and you essentially have penalties for trying to access the money. When you invest in rental properties, you get all the same and then some tax benefits. You get leverage. You get an asset that's probably going to appreciate roughly consistent with the 401k, only because you have leverage, it's going to appreciate on like 5 or 10 times as much money that you can realize the benefit of. So anyway, I would consider real estate. And then secondly, I would consider setting up a properly configured whole life policy to start to do what's called infinite or self-banking. Again, depending on, if I had more money, I'd probably go real estate. If I had less money, I'd go infinite banking policy. And somebody can watch others of my videos to find out what that means, but it's probably better than a 401k. Don't start investing until you have at least like 10 grand sitting around that you're never going to need to spend on your life. I get so many messages from young people, dude, I think that your whole thing about how to turn $100,000 into all this money isn't cool because none of us have $100,000. He's like, why don't you show me how to turn $1,000 into $100,000? The way to turn $1,000 into $100,000 is to invest in yourself, invest in education, invest in learning, invest in skills, invest in something that makes you worth more so you can get paid more, so you can actually save up $10,000 to $100,000 liquid that you don't need to spend on bills. All these people trying to get rich by like buying a few shares of GameStop or buying like 5,000 Dogecoin for $800, or you can't turn like less than $10,000 into enough money to retire. You need to be turning the little amounts of money that you have into better skills so that you can be worth more, so you can have a higher value of your time, so you can get paid more, so you can actually save up enough money to do some damage and then go use investing to build wealth. Do not labor under the delusion that you have time. This idea of like, I'm young, I'll grow up when I'm older, I'll be responsible when I'm older. In my 20s, I had the most energy I had the most time. I had the least attachments. That is the time to seize. That is the time to live like you're 55. Live like you're the most mature you'll ever be. Live like every second is the most precious, because it is. Making $100 or making a good investment at that age, or building a good relationship, or taking care of yourself, you have more time over the rest of your life for all the good decisions and good investments to compound, whether, like I said, whether it's people, whether it's health, whether it's money. Advice for people under 30 is start living like you're 60. Billionaires have been having a really bad few years in terms of PR. People are really loving to hate on some billionaires, but honestly, that's just sour grapes. If you know the parable of the sour grapes, the fox wants to eat the grapes and it can't reach them, and so it goes, yeah, never mind, they were probably sour anyways. Like, we're hating on billionaires because we don't have what they have. But you get paid in direct proportion to the complexity of the problems that you solve. And I say all the time that I think the greatest tragedy in this world is the vast majority of the work being done in this world is only being done to serve the person doing it. We're doing it because we need to make a living. We're doing it because we need to feed our family. We're doing it because we want to buy Christmas presents. We're not doing it because we're trying to make the world a better place. As long as the possibility exists to get paid in direct proportion to the magnitude and the complexity of the problems that you solve, there will be a reason for people to go out and solve billion-dollar problems that impact billions and billions of people. You remove that incentive, you remove that possibility, and everybody suddenly becomes very selfish, very small-minded, because there's really no reason to think about anybody else. I think there's 3 things you can do to get out of your own way. You got to understand, the subconscious mind, which is where identity lives, basically thinks in pictures. Start obsessively seeking out imagery that connotes abundance and possibility for your life. This is why vision boards are so powerful. It's not because there's some metaphysical force in the universe. It's because you're just forcing your subconscious to imprint imagery that contradicts most of the imagery that you've been stuffing it with your whole life. Start surrounding yourself with different people. If you have imposter syndrome, it's not just about yourself. If you start surrounding yourself with 10 people that are doing extraordinary things, you'll feel like an imposter for playing small. You'll be surrounded by reinforcement of your own potential. Identify some small, winnable battles that you can fight every single day. Making your bed every single day. Going to the gym every single day. Just find these little positive, almost addictions that you can get hooked on winning every single day, and that starts to become your expectation, because over time you'll get what you expect. I've had a few of them, few thousand over the last few years. And, somebody once told me, if somebody gives you a gift, somebody says, hey, do you want my grilled cheese sandwich? And you're like, no, I'm good. I'm already full. I've already eaten. I don't need your grilled cheese. Whose grilled cheese is it? Is it yours? Because they tried to give it to you, but you declined it. No, so it's still theirs, right? So every time a hater brings me a little hate gift, all gift wrapped in hate wrapping, and says, hey, would you like a bite of my hate sandwich? I'm like, I'm kind of full up. No thanks. I'm good. And then it doesn't belong to me. I don't have to deal with it. You deal with it by declining it altogether. Start by not being untrue to yourself. We live in this world now where we're so consistently compromising who we are that the idea that we need to do something to get back in truth with ourselves, that's the problem. Live in truth with yourself. Will Durant, paraphrasing Aristotle, said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not a virtue, but a habit. Be in the habit of being true to yourself all the time, so that the anomaly is that one moment when you are untrue to yourself and you can course correct, instead of doing what most people do, which is living out of integrity with their health, living out of integrity with their relationships, living out of integrity with their work ethic, living out of integrity with the good old-fashioned values at the core of society right now, and living out of integrity all the time so that they think they need to take some corrective action to get in truth with themselves. We're conditioned to have such a low opinion of what daily life looks like and what we're capable of on a consistent basis that we think living out of integrity is something we can fix by occasionally getting back into it, occasionally being true to ourselves. The whole premise of the question is exactly what's wrong. Money's not evil. Money is a multiplier of whoever has it. If you're a bad person, I want you to be poor, because a bad person plus money equals a lunatic, doctor, evil, demagogue, crazy person. If you're a good person, I want you to be rich, because money times good person equals I'll go out and positively impact the whole world. So if you're a good person, go get yourself lots of money. If you're getting lots of money, hold yourself to a standard of being a good person, but don't miss the forest for the trees. Money has no moral value.